It is rotten for you to be able to get along with your kids and can't get along with your wife.
Mm.
You can't be a father to your kids properly and you can't get along with their mom.
Mm.
You will end up with a new wife and the kid will end up with 4 adults, 2 moms and 2 dads. And split here and split there, and you can't be there for the child because you can't be in 2 places at one time.
All right, welcome back, guys and gals and guys, to another episode of Marriage Matters, as we continue to dive deeply and discuss the matters of marriage. I am one of your hosts, Shane, and ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Arthurs. How are you?
Yeah. You know, the greatness is all in the manual, man. It's if you use the manual for a product, you get the best use out of it.
The best results.
The best results, and you can turn around and skillfully do many things with it. Once you use the manual properly, then you have access
That's
to,
right.
you know. So yeah, that's the secret sauce. Let me say that.
It's
yeah.
Secret sauce. There's always a secret that people want to find out when the food is good. It's like, what do you put in it? It's that one thing that you don't gotta know, because then that's how they get their success. So the secret in the sauce.
and the thing with it is that since we're talking about food, when you have a cookbook, the cookbook is not for you to read for fun, but it's for you to follow. Even if you enjoy, the importance is following the cookbook. And it gives you the proper order. It gives you what ingredients, how to mix them, how hot to heat them. And if you follow it properly, you get the product that's on the page.
You know what goes hand in hand with a cookbook? Somebody who's experienced with the cookbook.
Yeah.
Just adding that, you know, I a lot of times when I get in the kitchen and I cook, guess what? Mom's on the other end of the video call. Hey, I did this, but you know, along with the cookbook, and as much as the cookbook has the methodology in it, man, how great when somebody who has applied it comes and shares their experience.
That is right. I like that. I like that because it's also important to understand that the power is not simply in the cookbook.
That's right.
But the power is in the information from the cookbook getting in your brain.
That's right.
So you don't have to have the cookbook to have the cookbook. Once you have it in your brain and you own it, you can put the cookbook aside. You're still following the cookbook, but you can set it aside because the information has been properly downloaded.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about husbands and the word husbandman, husbandry, husbands. How to be some tips and insights. We spoke a great deal about preparation for the woman, and we talked last time about women graduating into another dimension of testing when they become wives. But today we want to shift gears a little bit, shift focus a little bit to our fellas, to our guys. We want to hopefully drop some keys and insights to you to help you be a fruitful husbandman. And you're going to see why we say fruitful husbandman in a minute. But Mr. Arthurs, what are some of your opening comments and thoughts as we want to get into this segment today with husbandman, husbandry, husband, the guys? What do you have over there?
Well, I like a statement that you mentioned earlier. And so if we could begin with that, you spoke about the importance of creating an environment.
Yeah.
And it takes intelligence. It takes knowledge and understanding to create an environment. And once an environment is created, things that thrive in that environment would actually be attracted. And so you as a husband, you're creating an environment where your wife will thrive and be attracted to. And she will just glean and grow and you know, glow. Not only grow, Grow, but she will GLOW.
That's
and you can easily look at a man's wife and tell how he's doing. That's not a hard thing to do because he's a husbandman. You know, going to look for land when you go and you look for land in a country, we have a beautiful country and we still have a lot of land on sale and that type of thing.
Sure.
And when you go looking for land, you would pass lands that are overgrown with bushes and thorns and you know, it's totally unkept. That is telling you something about the person that owns the land. That they have actually neglected that land. And there are other lands that you pass, and when you look at them, they are properly cut and they look neat and you want to buy it right away. Again, it takes a husbandman to create the proper environment and to prepare his land, that you can see from the land what he's doing or what he's not doing. So there we begin with an empty, flat, nice, juicy piece of land.
A nice piece of land. Just for our intellect's sake, the word husbandman, or the word husband, I should say, comes from that word husbandman. And that word husbandman it means somebody who's a farmer or a gardener, a keeper, a tiller of land, someone who cultivates crops and cultivates the ground. So that's where we get the word husband from. And that's why we're talking about land and cultivating, because as a husband, your land is your wife.
Right.
And is it safe to say, by extension, even your kids
and your home? That's right.
Your home. Your home is your land, or our land. And so we're going to be discussing some of the principles interchangeably of farming and land and all of that, just for mind. So I want to put that into your cerebral cortex, who's listening, that the word husband comes from husbandman, a gardener, a farmer, a tiller. All right. And so we start with a nice piece of land.
That's right.
Yeah. So that home, that environment is our responsibility. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
So what are some of the practical things that a husband can begin to do to cultivate a great land? Because I know if I would ask any guy, any husband, man, do you want a nice family and a home? And I'm sure they'll say yes.
Yeah.
I want to go on a limb and assume, with sometimes assuming is very bad, but I'm gonna assume that most guys will say yes. I want a healthy home. I want a happy family.
Yeah.
So what are some of the practical things that you can share with them, just to get us going, to cultivate their home, to cultivate that environment?
Well, I don't want to give a lot of practical things, so I'll try to give one.
All right, great.
That practical thing that a man should deal with, he should get knowledge. The manual tells us to get knowledge.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our school system, we send our children through school. And when they're finished with the primary, we send them to secondary. And we continue to spend sometimes thousands. A parent that would not let their child go up the street without following them would send their child all the way over the seas, over the ocean, to another country by themselves, so that they can get knowledge and understanding and wisdom. So these three things, I would say, if a man can get these three things, then that's all he needs. Knowledge. Understanding is understanding what the knowledge is there for. And wisdom is applying it. Having an understanding of something and not applying it is useless.
It's foolishness, actually.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. And foolishness can't help you.
No.
And nobody wants a foolish husband. And nobody wants an ignorant husband, a husband that has no knowledge of how to be a husband, a husband that has no understanding of what it takes to be a husband, and a husband that cannot apply himself to be a husband. So I'd like to start with that and to say that there is this big word that a husband is. And the husband is husband to the wife, the same way the husband is husband to the ground. A husbandman is husband to the ground. While a husband in a family is a husband to his wife and by extension his kids and his home.
Amen.
So I would want to like sort of share my screen
Sure.
and look at the word the same way we looked at our word last week for wife. Let's see if we can look at the word for husband.
Yeah, let's go.
And maybe we can begin there with the word for husband. So I hope I have the correct screen shared. But if you look at this word, the word for husband, it is ish. Now the word for wife is isha. But the word for husband is ish. And it's amazing when you look at these Greek letters and pull meaning from them. Again, we have the letter aleph, which means strength, or it can mean God.
So quickly before you go forward, this is what we're looking at here. Is this Greek or Hebrew?
Yes, that's right.
Hebrew. Okay.
It's the Hebrew word
right
for husband.
Okay, so the first one is aleph, which means you said strength or God, right?
Means strength or God. The second one is arm. It's a yod. It's actually the smallest letter in the alphabet.
A yod. Okay.
And they believe that this letter, all letters are formed from it. So this is also another little letter that might represent God to the Hebrew folks, because everything comes from it.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
And the last letter is one that I love, and that is the shin. So we find the shin in both the wife's name and in the husband now name. There's a shin, which means destroyed. So if you look at this and you read it with God instead of strength, it is saying God's arm destroyed. No, I don't like to use the word God. I like to use the word manufacturer. So God's arm destroyed. If you destroy your own arm, you're making a sacrifice. You see? And so engraved inside the name of the husband is sacrifice.
Wow.
This all comes from a story in the manual where God himself became a human and he took his own life, if you want to say it that way, because he said nobody can't kill him. He laid down his life and he destroyed his arm by allowing nails to go through his arm. And so here we see that the husband is similar to sacrifice. It is similar to a man willing to destroy his own arm for the sake of his wife, for the sake of the person he loves. And don't think this is so far-fetched.
No,
there are people that will cut themselves open and share a kidney with you. Because and that is love. That is sacrifice.
Yeah.
There are people that will push you out the way because you're their child and take the hit from a car. There are people that will step in front of you or put you behind them while somebody is spraying bullets and take that bullet. And they are actually being destroyed by their own hand. And please don't get me wrong. This is totally different from suicide.
Right.
In suicide, you're taking your own life and you don't have that authority. It doesn't matter how grave it is, you are not allowed to take your own life. This is you giving up your life or sacrificing something for the sake of someone else.
Yeah, I think I just want to add on that too, because one may think it's just like a radical emotion. It's just emotion for me to someone to lay down their life, but this isn't radical emotion. This is responsibility that I'm hearing. It's out of responsibility that a husband sacrifices for his wife.
Right. I like that word, responsibility.
Yeah. It's not just being radical or reckless. It's literally a responsibility. So I just want to add that, as you said. Yeah.
And along with responsibility, I would also add the word value.
Sure.
It is a sign of value. And so the first thing a husband has to learn is how to value his wife. You know, many times we get into relationships and it's very juvenile, it's very immature. I get in there because of what you can give me, because I want to have sex, because I want somebody to love on. And when I say love on, I'm talking about like sexual love, not love the way it should be. So we go into relationship as men very immature and selfish. And this is saying to you that you should start the opposite way. You should go into relationship understanding what love is, that it is sacrifice. It is giving up, not getting. You see? Yeah. And I think that is the foundation of what makes a solid marriage.
That's right. That's right. You know, I think we have I'm just thinking practically of a husband to the ground, and he needs tools, right? He needs certain things to make sure the ground is in order. And I think love is very, very important in what we're talking about. And like you said, the knowledge, understanding the wisdom is very, very important, because like this is very, very much countercultural to what we're hearing today when it comes to a male in his home. You know, so much of what's out there today, men with great sophistication, I might add, are putting up arguments and justifying why they can have more than one wives or family or walk away. And if you don't understand some of the basics, I mean, man, but I like that it's countercultural. I like that it's shining light. I like that it's different, because it's now calling husbands to order, if I could say so.
That's right.
And you know, let me say, man, I tell you, I have had guys in counseling get upset with me because they feel as if though I am targeting them, but I'm not targeting. It's like, look, we have a huge responsibility as husbands.
Yeah.
And a bunch of what I hear inside of counseling a lot of time, it just lands on neglect of the man.
Yeah.
You know, so I really like, go ahead.
I like the word target because it explains, and you should target the men. Because let's say you're going, let's talk about the army. So you're going into the army. The man gets in the army. They tell him, hey, cut off all your hair. And he cuts off his hair. He's just sitting down to you. They say, get up. Go and do 20 push-ups, 100 push-ups. And he's like, man, you're targeting me. I just sat to eat. Then you let him go to sleep 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's just trying to enjoy a sleep. And you come, get up. And he's like, but it's 3 o'clock, I only got an hour sleep. Go out there and do 100 push-ups. And he will say you're targeting him. That is an immature soldier. Because he thinks war is going to be easy. That he's going to get 8 hours sleep.
Right.
You see? And all that targeting, if you want to call it that, is actually preparation, because you cannot be somebody that is soft and need pampering, and you're in the army. So from you get there, you'll be targeted because they are building a strong foundation. And this is the thing with a husband. You are the foundation of the home. You cannot be soft and easy to crumble, or the home will crumble. And your wife can try to keep things together, but imagine a house trying to hold the foundation together. Imagine you have a 35-story building and it doesn't have a good foundation, and that building has to try to keep. No. So there's no excuse that you should offer a foundation for not being a foundation. You see? So I want to say it like this. Beware of fake love.
Yeah.
There's fake love out there. And I'm going to say to you, talking about tools and husbandmen and farmers, the only tool you need one tool. Only one tool. The manual speaks of one tool. The one tool you need is love.
That's right.
As a man, a husbandman, you only need love. Now, beware of fake love. You have everybody coming to you and telling you they love you. I went to buy batteries yesterday, day before yesterday.
Yeah.
And I spent about $15 in batteries. And I found out, I didn't know this, that you should not buy batteries with the little bunny on it. The Duracell batteries, I thought I was buying good stuff. And I opened the pack, and out of the 6 batteries I bought, only 2 were good.
Oh, man.
You see, there's real Duracell and there's fake Duracell.
Yeah, yeah.
The real Duracell might be good for 6 years in storage. The fake one is cheaper, but it doesn't even work. And so be careful of fake love. Women, be careful.
Fake love.
Men, be careful that you are learning the fake love. You want the legit love, which is sacrifice.
Yes. Yes. And you know, when you talked about targeting and the way you spoke about it, a word came to my mind. I want to add, it's training.
That is right.
The targeted and trained, and there is where a man can bring a transformation right afterwards.
Yes.
Because you spoke about the soldier, you spoke about him being targeted. It's for a purpose. It's to prepare him to stand firm. And so training is very, 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 very important, guys. And you know, just the other day I was having a conversation with a few young people. It was a girl and a guy, and you could see that he wanted to talk to me about something that was bothering him, and she wanted him to talk about it. And I know he wants everything about him, but he's unwilling. And I said, you know, I said to the young lady, I said, this is typical for guys. It's hard for them to want to communicate and open mind. But my point is, I say that to say that that's one of the many challenges of why we have a lot of, for lack of better words, unprepared husbands.
Yeah.
We think we know. We think we have it all together. Providing is definitely a part of it, but that's not the only ingredient. Perhaps you can throw it down good in bed. That's great. That's great. But I want to tell you that's not going to tend to a good ground or a good wife or a good. It's a part of it. All right. And so, what I'm saying here is be teachable. Be teachable. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that you went to that point of you can throw it down good. We are talking about sex and intimacy for those of you who missed that. and we are in no way taking it lightly. Nope. Sex is important. Sex is actually very important. In fact, when we are talking about a farmer, and sex is when that farmer breaks the ground apart and places the seed in the ground.
Right.
You know, and so that is important. There won't be reproduction if there's no new plants, no new trees, and we'll all die if there's not planting. So I like that you said that, and I don't want it to go.
Yeah, and just think about a husband who to the ground after put the seed, he waters it and he tends it and keeps it till it bears. And so you know, like you talked about love the tool, I want to also say love is the fertilizer, love is the water, love is
it's a magic tool.
It's all around there, isn't
That's
it?
That's right. It can swap and change into it's like Dora's backpack. It can become anything you need it to become to get the job done. That is love.
Yes.
Not the fake one.
Not the fake one.
The fake one might only be able to do one thing and it runs out of battery. Like the Duracell with the rabbit on it.
Yeah.
But the real love is capable of morphing into, like Transformers can morph into anything you need and perform it with excellence. The real love.
Right.
Unconditional love, not romantic, sexual love. Everybody can do that. Yeah.
Right. So, as I think about a husbandman, also on a husband, and I was sharing it with this a little bit with you off camera before we came on, was the fact that a gardener, because that's one of the ways that word translates, is a gardener, a farmer. A gardener, a farmer has to be attentive of their land. They have to be attentive to what they've planted. They have
Yes.
to they're not just attentive to let it grow, but they have to guard it from certain things.
Yes.
What are some things, man, that we got to what are some things we want to see grow
Yeah.
in our marriages, in our families, and what are some things that we have to guard against as husbands? What
Well,
would you say?
I just love that. I just love that. And I want to take a chance and not answer it directly.
Sure.
Um, so when you say guard against, what I have down here in my notes is one of the job of a husband is to protect.
Mm. Mm.
So that's why I don't want to go deep, because we are speaking here, we are looking at husbandman, which means a farmer.
Mm.
And why the manufacturer would use the word husband that you use to explain someone that works dirt, that works on soil, and compare that to a husband in a relationship, in a marriage. Why would he call men husbands?
Mm.
And at the same time, he called farmers husbands.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a lady farmer, you're a husbandman or a husbandwoman.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the many things that a farmer does is he protects.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you plant a seed and it's a seed that animals love or insects love, if they love the plant and the shoot that comes out from that seed, yeah, you won't have anything growing.
Nope.
Because they're going to come for it. And so the farmer constantly has to protect. He has to cover these things up. Sometimes you have to make a net and put it over these things. Sometimes you have to shade them from the sun.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes you
Yes.
would put a scarecrow in there to let birds believe a human is there. You know?
Yes.
Because if you don't, animals will come and eat half your fruit. It won't be good. You know, and so you protect your family, you protect your wife from things on the outside that will come against them.
Mm-hmm.
And you should never have to protect them from yourself. You should be the one protecting them,
Wow.
not the one hurting.
Wow.
The farmer does not go on the grounds and destroy all his crops.
Wow.
You see?
Wow.
So when you ask what should they keep out or protect, think of a farmer and what he has to do inside. I'm just beginning, but
yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to add something there.
No, I like it. I think this is why they have to be attentive. We have to be attentive because just when we think about protection, of course, first and foremost, we're thinking about the some of the more major things you think about, home invasions, making sure that the house is physically protected. But I want to also add another dimension that we have a responsibility to help our wives when they're stressed. They protect them emotionally, right? That's also a form of guarding because we're talking about insects. Sometimes, one time we try to garden and we have dogs, and that's not conducive together if you're not gonna put a barrier, because
that's right.
We have German shepherds and they love digging. I'll tell you. And you lay it on a fresh soil bed, that's like they're like, yeah, yep.
Yes.
And so you gotta be proactive. But so dogs are one thing, insects are one thing, but then there are things that can grow from the inside too.
I love that.
There are things that's also, I mean, my gosh, there was no soil bed there and nothing was growing, and as we put all sorts of stuff decided to grow along with our flowers. And so you have to be plucking up these vines come out of nowhere and start to grow around the plants. And so there's not just things that you have to keep out, but you got to look over things that can spring up from within.
That's right. And I love that. I really love that, because as you're talking, I'm thinking and I'm trying to hold it down over here.
Go ahead.
But there are times when I would tell my kids, no, you're not going to stress my wife out. That's my wife. And I would take on certain things that I would say, no, you bring that to me. You know? And so I protect her from even, and then other people might come and say, oh, we want you to do this. We'd like for, and I say, no, 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 you're not going to do that. Tell them that I don't want you to do it. Because there can be internal stress. Sometimes you might have to protect your wife from her own family, where her family treats her like trash. And you might need to say, no, 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 you don't talk to my wife that way. No, no, no.
Right. That's
and
a
so
good, that's very good.
I love that you're saying that. Yeah.
Very, very, very. Say, yeah. And so, that's one of the things I wanted to add. If you permit me to add something else.
Yeah.
So I talked about being attentive, but the next, I mean, do you have something you want to add before I get to the next one?
Well, go ahead, because I'm full over here. So whenever the time comes, we'll do it. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah. So I also, guys, husbands, man, I've been personally doing my best to work on this as a husband in my marriage, and I've also seen this come up as an issue in counseling. It's be approachable, man. We got to be approachable. I think there are so many wives that want to share certain things with their husbands, but they're afraid because they already know the response that they're gonna get, and so they're trying to deal with it on their own, or they're looking for another way to deal with it, or they just suppress it because we're often not approachable. And for our land to grow, and speaking of our wives and family, let's be approachable. And sensitive along with that, because like we talked about the attentiveness and being sensitive. A gardener, a farmer is sensitive to the weather, to the elements, to the needs of his crop and his land. All right. So yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like that. Again, when you say that, I'm thinking that we cannot move from protection if you're looking at that point, because in this case, you are protecting your wife from yourself.
Man.
Think of it this way. The manual says that we are all desperately wicked and deceitful above anything else. There's nothing else on the earth that is more deceitful than a human's heart. And it says we are desperately wicked. So in the Hebrew language, there's a little letter that's called a kuf. And it can mean good or it can mean bad. But basically, the kuf is what we call the creature. It's like the monkey. Because a man without conscience is simply a monkey. It's simply a creature. And so when you see men tearing into each other like animals, you know, killing, you are seeing the creature. An out of control creature. Now, all of us, we have this creature inside, but most of us have the ability to lock it in. If you practice, you can keep it locked up, and it takes a hurricane to break it out. And there are times when we do break it out, and nobody likes to see how it looks when we are breaking out the creature. But that creature that should be locked up, your wife should never meet. And when your wife comes to you and wants to share something that is on her heart that bothers her, it might be something simple to you, but it's big to her, then she should not meet that creature. And sadly for men, even if the creature is locked up, it has long arms. And so the wife can't even come close to speak to you because they're going to get that silent, harsh, rough, rude, dismissive treatment that causes them to stay away, or as you said earlier, they might even lie just so that they can keep the peace and maybe not get hit. But that is because, sir, you have your creature out roaming freely. He needs to be locked up.
That's not a healthy land. I'm telling you that.
No.
That's a torn the ground, and if that's a byproduct of what of our wives, then man, we gotta stop and take a look in the mirror, as husbands, and adjust some things, because that's just showing us that, man, we're not approachable.
Yeah.
And that's a part of being a protector. It's a part of nurturing and growing your wife and family. All right. And the
Yes.
last thing I want to say here, and I'll pass it over to you, is be attached. Be attached, because um like a farmer has his land. He's, yeah, I mean, he does what he does, and probably he takes a break, but he's not gonna go away for like a year and be like, yeah, whatever. He's
Yeah.
attached. He's invested in keeping his land and his garden, and so all the more we should be.
Yeah.
Husbands, don't be presently absent.
Thank you.
Don't. You're like, yeah, I'm paying the bills. I'm getting groceries. Great, man. Kudos to you. But just don't get home and be presently absent. A lot of times we're present but we're absent.
Yeah.
All right. Be attached. Be really involved. Be a part. Don't be apathetic. That's something. And again, I meet so many wives, women who, what they want. They want our time,
Yeah.
and they want our attention. And that's when you have a good wife. They're not so much running you down for money. They're running you down for your time.
Yeah.
I'm saying you have a good wife that's a mark of a great wife. Okay, so yeah, Mr. Arthurs, well, yeah.
You're pushing some buttons here, but I'll behave myself. So we can finish here, because I would love to go into deeper, because that's very important. When you say they're not looking for money. Because first thing, many times a woman, like in my case, my wife made maybe 3 times more than I made. So I had to be doing 3 jobs, 4 jobs to try to bring up my end of the deal. And that is understanding that she should not be the one working. So a wife will not be after her husband for money, because her husband is her flesh. And if she's asking for money, it's to put in the house, it's to take care of the kids.
Right.
And so I like that third one that you or that you mentioned. I want to see this. If you're a husband, there are 3 things that you need to do. You need to, 1, give identity. 2, you need to provide. And 3, you need to protect. We touched on protect earlier. But you also need to provide, and you need to give identity. And so when you say the word attachment, I see attachment as covering these 2.
Right.
Now, I want to say this to you before I talk about those 2. People, it is rotten for you to be able to get along with your kids and can't get along with your wife. You can't be a father to your kids properly, and you can't get along with their mom. You will end up with a new wife, and the kid will end up with 4 adults, 2 moms and 2 dads. And split here and split there, and you can't be there for the child because you can't be in 2 places at one time. You see? So I want to say that you must be able to get along with your wife.
Sure.
More than you can get along with your kids.
Right.
Or you won't be able to be there for them. So being attached is important. And to be attached, you have to provide, you have to give identity. So I see this as a fun one. If you buy a land and you're going to farm on it, let's say I bought a land. Things get so good and I buy a big, huge piece of land. And I'm going to work that land. I'm going to be the husband to that land. Husbandman. The first thing I'll do, I will give that place a name. It will be named Arthurs Ranch.
Hey.
So I give that place identity. In fact, people will use that name to say, when you reach Arthurs Ranch, then you're close to Kaya, then you're close to Los Angeles, wherever you're going.
Right.
That will be a landmark because I gave it an identity.
Right.
So as a husband, your job is to give identity. How can you give your child identity if you're not even in the home? If you're a present but absent father, or if you can't get along with mommy, so you have to live in a different part of the world. How can you give your child identity? You're not attached to that child. You're detached. And all kind of other people will be attached to that child. You see, mommy might do the best to protect that child, but you're not there and you have a job to do. So the first you do is give identity. In fact, when a man gets married to his woman, that husbandman changes that woman's name. You know, that was not an option for me. I let my wife know, I'm not marrying you if you want to keep your last name. If you want to keep your last name, you can hold it. No problem. But you can't hold me. You see? I don't want you to have your last name. I want you to have my last name. And that is because I'm giving her a new identity. She is no longer known as her name, but she is now known as Mrs. Arthurs. When people speak to her, they say Mrs. Arthurs. When they call her name, they say Susie Arthurs, whatever her name is. You know? And so she has a new identity. You see?
So how important is this issue of identity, especially with the kids? How important is this when it comes to a father and his daughter, and a father and his son? Because identity goes far deeper than the name you give to your child.
Oh yeah.
So how important is this? And if I could add one more question, what does that look like again practically, this father giving identity to his son or daughter?
Yeah. Well, I would like to take the easy route out of this and to say that love gives identity.
Love it. All right.
So for example, if you know that your daddy loves you and he's going to be there for you, anybody comes along and tease you at school and tell you you're ugly or you'll brush that off. It will hurt. It will hurt. But you know your daddy loves you because he just told you this morning. And he just hugged you this morning. So he's going to speak into his children, into his wife, how beautiful she is, how beautiful his daughter is, how he loves to see her hair, you know, how she is so intelligent. And so when somebody comes and tries to counteract that or to tell them something, no, my daddy just tell me this morning, or the wife, a man looks at her and say, baby, you're beautiful, you know, I want to get under that dress. And she's going to say, no, I'm fine. My husband just told me that 3 times this morning. And he was under there this morning too.
Hey, ding, ding.
No thanks, you know? And so when you give identity, there's a sense of I know who I am.
Worth.
A sense of personal worth and confidence. And so not anybody can come. I want to say not any idiot or not any simpleton, but I won't say it. I'm just going to say not anybody can come and say, oh, baby, I love you, and you fall flat on your face for them as a lady. Because...
Yeah. Now that's good. You see, I like that because you expounded it even to the wife. And fellas, let me give you a little game here. Maybe some of you know this, so it's a refresher if you know it. Maybe some of you don't know, but here's something for you to learn. Women are not turned on physically. They're turned on emotionally.
Yeah.
And identity will keep insecurities at bay. And insecurities are just a lack of inner security.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I'm getting at the point that I want to land here today as a husband, because when you are being proactive with your land, with your garden, and you're proactive in terms of being a protector and providing for your land, it's fruitful, it's well. And you know, when you look at, if you look at women, I mean a normal woman for the most part who has not had any trauma, if she God forbid goes off to look for another man or cheat, it's usually because she's neglected emotionally.
Yeah.
That's usually a lot of times where it starts. And so just saying identity affirmation is ways of being proactive as a husband.
Right.
And
Not only to your wife, but to your kids.
To your kids.
Yeah.
This is super important, fathers, for your daughters.
Yep.
As well as for your sons. Right. You know, I saw two boys with their dad doing some work in a yard one time. And one of the boy was just getting it. And every time he said, see dad, I did it. See dad? Like I was like, boy, this boy is hungry for his dad's affirmation.
Wow.
And he's working hard, and you could see he just wants his dad to be proud.
Right.
So just saying, guys, we have a good work before us. Okay, it's not a birth, it's a good work. So
what speaking about sons, I want to say this, that what you see in front of you also helps determine your identity. So if you see the good way that your father treats your mother, many times that affects you. You have children that believe that their parents broke up because of them. And it affects their identity. They believe they are no good, that they caused this thing to happen. And so when your child see you treat your wife a certain way, it actually speaks to their identity. Have you ever heard a certain name? And whenever you hear that name, you say, oh, those people, they are wealthy. Or, oh, those people, they are business people. And you also hear certain names and you say, well, these names are, usually identified with criminal activity. And there goes identity again. That even without directly doing it, you are doing it.
That's right.
You're teaching your kids to be ruthless. And you are teaching them sometimes to have to run and hide because someone will be gunning for them. Because the manual tells you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. You see? But I want to say this. I was doing a study on love. And one of the things that love actually means, one of the many things, and I was doing this from the manual, it actually means that you are speaking somebody's strength over them. So I love to practice this. I always try to practice this. I'm going to look at someone and see what their strength is, and I speak it over them, because that is love, when you can help somebody to become who they are. They might not even know it, but you can see it. As a father, as a husband, you need to see these things. And so you can speak over your wife her strengths. Nobody will resist hearing, unless they think you're trying to be shady or romantically shady.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to resist you speaking over them things that confirm to them what they have felt in their heart for years.
Yes.
Or what they've wanted. So speaking somebody's strength to them, back to them, letting them hear it from your mouth to their ears, is something that gives identity. I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And I think man, I'm just thinking of how wide and deep and rich this conversation is. And unfortunately, how time is always against us in these conversations. Time is always against us. But no, the identity is, man, especially what you talked about with the family, and it comes back to the environment you create. Fellas, and this is gonna be my last thought for today, and I'll pass it to you for your final. You're either going to have an environment based on you intentionally investing, or you're gonna have an environment that's a result of you neglecting it. Either way, you're gonna have an environment,
That's right.
Either way. You're either gonna have one by intentionally investing like a good farmer, or you're gonna have one by just detaching, not being attached. It's not gonna happen automatically. It has to be investment. When you think about the manufacturer placing the man in a garden, I get this blows my mind every time. There was no growth for two reasons. the manufacturer had not caused it to rain,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no man to work the ground.
Yep.
Those two things, when those two things were in place, we saw trees grow, we saw things blossom. So be intentional about your home and your marriage and your family. Starters, what you got there in closing?
Well, the last thing I would like to say is, as a husbandman, your job is to provide. This is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
If you are selfish, you're not a husband.
Hmm.
The two words don't go together.
Mm-hmm.
If you're selfish, you're a man, but not
Mm-hmm.
a husbandman.
Mm-hmm.
So your job is to provide. And provision does not mean that you see what you'll get back right away.
Mm-hmm.
That seeing has to do with maturity. It has to do with knowledge and understanding. So you might not see anything, but you know what you're putting in, and you will get what you put in. A wife will take what you give her, multiply it, and she will give it back to you. Don't be wary in providing. So that farmer goes, he buys a land, nothing happens. He spends money to buy that land. No, he spends money to cut the land.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happens. He's working, sweating, burning up. Nothing happens. He turns the soil, he plants a seed in the soil. Nothing happens. He doesn't get back anything. He might be down thousands of dollars. He has to put in gas to travel miles. He has to buy a tractor. Nothing happens. He waters that thing. Put drains and little water pipes or whatever you do to water your crop. Nothing happens. The grass begin to grow, and he has to go and put up a fence and nothing happens.
Wow.
You see? Now, an immature, ignorant farmer, when I say ignorant, someone that has no knowledge of farming and the way this product works, will get upset and say, I've had enough.
I quit.
Yeah. He'll go and find another land that has already been grown, no? You see?
Wow.
But provision is your responsibility, because that is part of creating the environment. That is part of attaching, and you don't provide from far. You have to go on the land and provide. You don't drop the seed from the sky and hope it falls where it should. You see? You provide, and in providing, you are planting seeds, and seeds multiply. That is why a woman is going to multiply. Anything you give her, as you said earlier, rightfully, an environment is going to be created. You are planting seeds, sir. Whether you are directly planting seeds or thorns will grow, because those will be planted. You see? Any way you take it, something will grow. It will either be something that's valuable to you if you have placed in the right amount of provision, or it will be something that is going to be a thorn in your flesh. If you have been neglectful, or you are planting the wrong seeds. So I just want to stop with that to say that you as a husbandman, you're a provider. And if you ever think that your wife is supposed to give half, then you're on your own. We all think that these days. That is not what the manufacturer says. He says the man's curse is to work. And I would like to close with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Marriage Matters, because marriage matters. Your marriage matters. Until next time, I am Shane.
I'm Sylburn.
We'll catch up with you guys next time. Blessings on you.